Yo, what's going on everyone? This is Julian from Memory Cards. So today, Starlink Battle for Atlas came out on Xbox One, PS4, and Switch. Both me and Jake ended up getting it on Nintendo Switch, and I wanted to put together some quick impressions based on the first like 2.5-3 hours or so that I've played of the game. Now, I remember seeing this game at E3 2018 during the Ubisoft press conference, and it wasn't something that really caught my attention that much. I thought it was interesting that they were making a game that had Star Fox characters in it and looked like Star Fox in a lot of ways, but wasn't a Star Fox branded game. It just would have those characters in it if you were playing the Switch version. If you're playing Xbox One, PS4, not in it, but Switch, you get the Star Fox characters. And I've never been like a huge fan of Star Fox games. I played the N64 one quite a bit and the GameCube Star Fox Adventures game, but it wasn't something I was like clamoring for. I wasn't like, give us a Star Fox game, we need it. I just honestly not that interested. So as time has gone by since that press conference, we had the whole summer and I would see bits and pieces of information regarding Starlink. I originally thought this was like a linear game. I didn't realize that it was open world. So I was going into this thinking it was linear, and I knew that this was a toys to life game, meaning that it was similar to like Disney Infinity or Amiibos, in which you could buy toys and attach them to your controller, and these toys would be able to put different like ships and weapons into the game, and that's something I've truly never been interested in. I don't ever have the desire to buy more plastic when it comes to video games. I'm enjoying buying things digitally these days, so the less plastic the better. But so when I saw that it was like a Toys to Life game, it was another thing that kind of put me off of it. So then flash forward to like 2 days ago, as we're getting closer to the release, I began to pay more attention to gameplay videos, and I began to see a lot of videos that other people were putting out that were like 5 things about Starlink that you should know. We see that with a lot of other games, but I ended up watching one, and what I saw was like completely different than what I was expecting. And what I was seeing was a game that looked very similar to something like No Man's Sky or Destiny, which is now, upon release, what Starlink is being compared to the most are those two games. And I'm a fan of both of those games, Destiny and No Man's Sky, for different reasons, but to put those two things together and try to make it work, it was something that I was interested in, to see if that could work and if it would be enjoyable. And while I originally was not going to pick this game up, I decided that it was worth the shot. If it was able to deliver something that No Man's Sky had promised to do and didn't quite pull off, I would be happy to play it. Because No Man's Sky was a huge letdown for many different reasons, and it was a game that I had looked forward to a lot and kept returning to. I went back to it not that long ago to try to see if I can get back into it, and had a hell of a time. A bad time, I should say, not a hell of a good time, a hell of a hard time getting back into it, and I just didn't. I gave up again. And, so I was a little bit worried, a little bit hesitant going into this, but I'm happy to say that this game pulled off something that No Man's Sky could never do. And I think it's because of the influence from Destiny. So let's talk a little bit about what Starlink is, and then we can compare all 3 of these games and see how it all blends together and works. So in Starlink, you play as a member of a team called Starlink, which is essentially a cosmic police force. They're just agents of good. They travel through the galaxy protecting people. Think of them as the Guardians of the Galaxy. And you can choose one character when you start the game, but you can actually change your character at any time, change your ship at any time. This game's all about customization. But Starlink's whole mission is to protect the galaxy, and they come right at the beginning of the game, come to a very big disagreement with a we'll call them the Agents of Evil, and they're called the Legion, right? They actually remind me a lot of the Geth from Mass Effect, and they're just sort of like robotic alien menaces of the galaxy. They're all about destruction and death and conquering, just to bend everyone to their will, right? They're just every personification of evil that you could think of. So right when the game starts, you get some short cutscenes that kind of explain what Starlink is, what your character is, what your goals are, and then it immediately puts you into a beginning tutorial area, which is all space combat. So when this started, I was like, okay, this is what I was expecting, and it wasn't anything that impressed me immediately. You know, sometimes you turn on a game and you get right into the beginning area and you look around or whatever, and you're like immediately hooked, or there's an immediate something that catches your attention and you go, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. That did not happen with Starlink. Unfortunately, there wasn't that hook right away. Just with the press conference, there just wasn't that immediate hook, and not every game needs it. Some games are a slow burn, but just in my personal opinion, my personal experience, I did not have that. So after completing the beginning combat tutorial, it immediately puts you onto a planet, and when you start on this planet, your ship is kind of just hovering off the ground. You never get out of your ship in Starlink. You're always going to be in your ship. So when it puts you onto a planet for the first time, you're kind of just hovering off the ground a bit, and you're pretty speedy. You have good momentum, good movement. It feels very fluid. It feels really good. But I was like, man, I could have sworn I saw footage of you taking off of the planet a bit and then sailing a bit higher. And then, you know, you doing like barrel rolls and having more planet exploration that was similar to No Man's Sky. So you do like a 30-minute tutorial on the planet's surface, where it shows you what you're going to be doing on each planet you explore. And then about like 45 minutes into the game or so, there's a moment in which you get the opening credits for the first time, and it's just like it's just like the big title, Starlink Battle for Atlas. And it's right when they tell you how to take off from the planet for the first time. And when this happened, I was like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. This is absolutely it. This is perfect. Because not only does this game combine what is essentially the same combat mechanics, or at least very similar combat mechanics to Destiny, with the planetary exploration and space travel of No Man's Sky, which is like a perfect combination. It's a match made in heaven. And while both of these aspects aren't exact copies of those two respective games, they are heavily influenced by them, I would think. So you take off from the planet for the first time. It looks just like No Man's Sky. Too much of a similarity not to make the comparison. And to do so, or to not do so, would be an injustice, because it's clear that the developers behind Starlink wanted to take that concept that just did not work in No Man's Sky and apply it to their own thing. You know, actually, what this is very similar to is like Fortnite to PUBG. It's that kind of scenario, I'm guessing. At least that's how I feel, and maybe you feel differently if you've played all three of these games, but let me know in the comments. But you take off from the planet for the first time, you sail into space, you get into space, you travel around. It has the hyperdrive. It's just like, it's so similar to the space travel in No Man's Sky, but feels better. It feels really good, and having that extra boost with the great combat in this game, it's just like the perfect package of those two games, Destiny and No Man's Sky. So for longevity purposes, a big complaint I'm seeing right now is that the tedium of each planet exploration is a downfall of this game. I've seen scores of like 70% or 7.5, and a big complaint is eventually the things you do on each planet, it can get kind of boring. And right now I'm in the stage where everything's new, and there may be the potential for that in the future. So I can't speak on that yet. And again, we might have more content on that in the future. But as of right now, I haven't experienced any boredom or anything that I felt was truly tedious. So when you're on each planet, I think there's 8 or 9 planets. So there's not an infinite number of them as there is in No Man's Sky. infinite, quote unquote. But each planet seems fairly large, and there's a lot to do. You can scan the local wildlife, which again also kind of looks like No Man's Sky. You can help various residents of said planet by bringing them things, do standard like fetch quests. Plenty of enemies to kill, plenty of bases and random things to explore. You can find mods for your guns and ship. There's just a lot to do. There's a lot of variety on each planet. And if you're thinking, okay, like I know this is a toys to life game, how much of that do I need to have, or how much do I need to think about that going in? So I have Starlink digitally. I don't have a physical version of it. And based on what I've seen, all of that extra peripheral stuff is entirely optional. Like you really don't need it. It's just there for the fun of it. If you want to collect things, if you want to spend that extra money, it's there. Go ahead and do it. The way that the toy thing, the toy ship fits on your Switch controller kind of looks a bit awkward, and to me, I wouldn't want to be holding a Switch controller with that thing on it. Again, personal preference, but just something to think about going forward. You may not want that giant ship sitting on your Switch controller if you're playing this in docked mode. And I think if you're in handheld, you can't even use that stuff anyway. This would be just for a dock scenario. I guess you could play it in handheld and then have your controller separate. But usually if I'm playing Switch handheld, I have the Joy-Cons locked into either side. So that's what I'm thinking right now about this game. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I'm going to be playing a ton more of it. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Please let me know in the comments. And also, if you like this video, why not like and subscribe for more content? We're working pretty hard lately on developing content that's interesting for our viewers, and feedback on that is very much appreciated. If you want to let us know also like what you want to see, what you want to see us collaborate with. We work with a lot of specific studios and developers. We get a lot of review codes and things like that. We did not get a review code for this game, so this is our impressions on, completely unbiased, but usually we are very unbiased. But again, please let us know in the comments, and thank you for watching this video.